Hello everyone, NEGTV is with you, and today we will tell you about the main news of the games. Let's get started. The mindless and merciless monetization system of Diablo Immortal never ceases to amaze. It turns out that if you stuff the most underrated Blizzard creation with money, you run the risk of, so to speak, over-donating. One of the players complained that, having invested $100,000 in his character and managed to defeat hundreds of opponents without defeat, he lost the opportunity to play in PvP mode. That is, the game says that there are simply no opponents equal to him in strength, which means there is no one to fight with. The support service cannot help in any way. The guy has objectively overtaken all other players, and now he will have to wait and hope that someone else is smart enough to get rid of a substantial amount of money for the sake of such pumping in Diablo Immortal. But it's not a fact that he will wait, because he is already threatening to sue. They say, what's the point of playing now? Details of the upcoming GTA 6 continue to emerge from Bloomberg journalist Jason Schreier. It turns out that Rockstar has recently seriously cut the project, abandoning some of the content. And if Schreier simply mentioned the very fact of the reduction in scale, then the Axios edition even specified what exactly was removed. Initially, the studio planned to implement 3 major cities and as many as 4 main characters. Then the plans were adjusted, only 1 city and 2 characters remained. The source does not report the fate of the cut content. Schreier says the new GTA is going to be actively supported by adding cities and missions. Perhaps, among the new locations there will be those cities that were planned to be added to the release version. The downsizing of the game, according to Schreier, was decided due to development delays. However, even a stripped-down Grand Theft Auto will still be big. It is expected that the main events of the game will take place in Vice City. Everyone understands realism in games in their own way. For the authors of Kingdom Come: Deliverance, this is a meticulous preservation of the features of life in the Middle Ages, including the preservation of its boring manifestations, from the need to wait for several hours to chat with a certain character, to the need to feed the main character and let him rest. For the creators of Arma 3, these are the realities of a real military battle, where you first need to land and drive to the point of operation for half an hour, and then crawl along the ground for the same amount of time to die from 1 sniper bullet. I would like to recall, for example, the game, Zenus, Boiling Point, outstanding for its time, released in 2005. There, the action takes place in impoverished Colombia, and the developers took this moment into account. The locals are trying to rip off money from us at the first opportunity. Our protagonist could develop addiction to drugs due to their frequent use, weapons could jam, and we received damage to certain limbs that needed to be treated. Of course, the gameplay of both Zenus and Kingdom Come was often harmed by all these complications. Well, here it is, Ninja Theory, which is currently creating the action game Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, strives to ensure that the beauties of Iceland in their creation are recreated perfectly believable. And even rocks polluted by local birds. The authors showed a special tool with which they apply virtual droppings to virtual rocks. Apparently, avian waste products are procedurally generated. If the designer doesn't like how they look, he can regenerate the layer. According to the developers, it is very important for them that Hellblade 2 has the maximum level of realism, and what kind of realism is this if excrement is not visible on the locations? When this beauty will go on sale, has not yet been specified. Meanwhile, the promising, and also based on realism, medieval strategy Manor Lords, has acquired 2 new mechanics that were not originally planned to be added to it. This was told by the developer Greg Stickzen. He says that now the project is in a state of closed alpha, and it was thanks to the testers that 2 elements were implemented. First, players will be able to set the area of effect of various buildings, for example, camps of lumberjacks or gatherers. Thanks to this, we will be able to find out if the lumberjacks cut down all the surroundings and began to extract wood somewhere very far. Secondly, there will be a system of reforestation, allowing better management of resources. How exactly we will promote the growth of trees, the author did not specify. Similarly, Greg didn't say if we'll be able to get a feel for these mechanics in early access or if we'll have to wait for release. An early access will start soon, at the end of this year. For those who have forgotten what Manor Lords is, we recall that this is a very in-depth and advanced mixture of Stronghold and Medieval, Total War with Kingdom Come, Deliverance level visualization. In the center rises, concentrating the eyes on itself, urban planning, not limited by lined frames. The settlement in its development is subordinated to trade routes and topographical features of the area, and therefore spreads out on hills and lowlands, nests on bumps, whirls intricately, without tripod imagination of architects and logisticians. Next in the picture is just realism and attention to detail. The furrow will not mystically swell with black soil, give the plow and the living creatures harnessed there. The iron is cleaned in a cheese-blowing furnace, and a vigilant shepherd without pernicious inclinations is served to a lush-sided flock of sheep. Seasonal outrages are happening, working people are frozen, drowned in rainfall, tormented by droughts, famine and plague. And where there is famine and plague, there will certainly be wars. And if the peaceful part of Manor Lords looks like a city manager, then the combat can turn, if you like, even into a kind of first-person action game. You can follow the battles from as close as possible. Survival game grounded from Obsidian Studio, as it turned out, will leave early access on PC and Xbox on September 27th. Here, we recall, children, reduced to the size of an ant, are fighting insects in the backyard. Grounded can be played solo or in online co-op. The main difference between the full version and the beta is the presence of a story campaign. It should be noted that Grounded enjoyed decent demand over these 2 years, more than 10 million people played it. The deal between Microsoft and Activision of the competing environment excites only Sony. This was found out by the Brazilian anti-monopoly regulator, which received written comments from a number of companies. And the only negative one belongs to the Japanese corporations. According to Sony, Call of Duty is a super popular franchise that no one is able to compete with normally. Moreover, Call of Duty is so popular that it becomes one of the criteria when gamers choose certain game consoles. Thus, if Activision Blizzard comes under the control of Microsoft, and she makes Call of Duty exclusive to their platforms, then Sony will lose a lot. To prove that Call of Duty is one of the main sources of revenue for the PlayStation from third-party games, Sony provided the Brazilian regulator with relevant documentation. For obvious reasons, it was not made public. At the same time, Ubisoft, for example, does not share this pessimism at all. The French believe that Activision has nothing unique and many developers are able to lure away the Call of Duty audience. Artificer has announced Homicidal All-Stars, a turn-based tactic about the brutal reality show, Star Massacre, which the developers themselves proudly define as a mixture of Running Man with American Gladiators. The main character of the project is the bounty hunter Scarlet Martillo. The show in which she participates is considered the most violent and realistic spectacle of the late 21st century in the game world. Here are all the literary clichés of a bad future. The situation in society is heated to the limit: income inequality, corporate unscrupulousness, constant natural disasters due to climate change, high crime and overpopulation. It's no surprise that Star Massacre has become something of an outlet in such a world. Not the purge, but attention can be diverted. Turn-based combat here will be thoughtful, with changing tasks, a variety of level mechanics and environmental elements that can be used to destroy enemies. The release will take place next fall. Representatives of id Software explained that their horror film Scorn never claims to be a full-fledged AAA project despite its impressive visuals. The passage of the story campaign takes only 6 to 8 hours, it all depends on the speed of solving puzzles. The process of creating Scorn began with a small group of 4 enthusiastic people. A small budget was raised for this business. Yes, since then id Software has expanded its team, but their creation will not move beyond AA for sure. By the way, for all its unique art style, Scorn will not be equipped with a photo mode. But for a deeper dive into what is happening, the authors model the interface, minimally loaded with icons and symbols. That is, take an interesting screenshot of the one you like. Moment it will turn out, but to play around with light, angle and other things, no. At the moment, the authors are making the final touches, polishing and balancing. The release is expected in October. As you know, the pirate action Skull and Bones, to which everyone who is not too lazy to use the epithet, long-suffering, was announced in 2017, and has been in development for even longer. Ubisoft has published several gameplay videos over the years, and here's an enthusiast Psycho one comparing how the game's graphics had evolved over 5 years. He showed in detail the changes in the user interface, the appearance of the captain's bridge, boarding animations, showed direct battles and much more. In general, after viewing, the conclusion tends to be that the purely visual version of the 2017 sample looked more natural. The modern video sequence in Skull and Bones suffers from the illumination characteristic of many Ubisoft AAA projects that breaks the whole idyll of sea travel. Users also noticed that the water textures in the early version of the project look more realistic than the almost flat canvas in the current build. The release is scheduled for November 8th. Let's see how this whole saga with numerous release transfers, management changes and production restarts will end.